If you have seen animals with exaggerated traits like the arms of Eccles beetle, you probably thought how these structures were selected. In this presentation, I intend to show what I am discovering about how competition may shape some of these traits. While in the wild, animals compete for access to many resources, such as food, shelter, and reproductive partner. Specifically about reproductive partner, they are usually male-male fight for access to females. In many of these species, male use morphological structure to injure or repel this rival. These structures are collectively called weaponry. Weaponry vary in both shape and size among species. Specifically about weapon size, there are species in which the weapon is small relatively to the body size, and species in which the weapon represents a large proportion of the body size. However, the mechanisms that shape this variation are little known. As weapons are used in male-male fight versus to female, perhaps this variation among species may be explained by a process that occurs intraspecifically. Intraspecifically, usually male with great investment in weapon size win fight and access females. However, it is expected that large weapons are more expensive than small weaponry. As that the main use of the weapon is in male-male fight versus to female, it is expected that reproductive benefits associated with winning a fight may affect the investment in weapon size among species. If it is true, it is expected that with the reproductive benefit of winning may increase, he on x-axis, great investment in weapon size is expected, he on y-axis. Some reproductive traits of species may affect the reproductive benefit of winning male, like the kind of spotted resource, female guard, and alternative reproductive tactics. In species whose male fight versus to females, winning male access female more immediately than in species whose male fight versus to territory. In this case, we expected great investment in weapon size in species whose male fight versus to females. In species in which male actively avoid other male from access female, male with great investment in weapon are probably to be favored both in access female and being more certain of paternity. Therefore, we expected great investment in weapon size in species whose male guard females. In some species, there are male with developed weapon and male without developed weaponry. Male without developed weapon access female in a way stealthily, without engaging in fights. Eventually, this stealthy male managed to be fertilization females. This way is expected with alternative mating tactics. Male with developed weapon are less certain to fertilize female than in species that don't have alternative mating tactics. Our hypothesis is that investment in weapon will be great in species in which no alternative tactics occur. Methods. To test our hypothesis, we conducted a meta-analysis with arthropod species. To compare our database, we looked for papers from two sources. We searched for papers cited in the review by Rico Guevara and Orms 2019, who carried out a rigorous compilation with the intention of identifying all animal species with weapons used in male-male fights. And in the Google Scholar, we find a total of 1,500 studies on Google Scholar. In each selected study, the main information collected was Pearson correlation coefficient of the relationship between weapon size and body size, if the male fight versus to female or territory, if there is mating guarding, if there is an alternative reproductive tactic. After screening, we obtained 19 studies for the review and 49 46 study from Google. We transformed the Pearson coefficient into z-values, and we used the Fisher's z-values as our response variable and the reproductive traits as explanatory variable. For all three hypotheses, the most common groups found were decapod, beetles, cricket, and other represent 22%. Here on the x-axis, we have kind of disputed results, and on the y-axis, we have the effect size of the relationship between weapon size and body size. The y-axis represents the sum variable in our analysis. We find no difference in investment in weapon size between species whose male fight for access to females and species whose male fight for access to territory. For female guard, we found no difference in investment in weapon size between species whose male don't guard female and species in which they guard. For alternative reproductive tactics, we found no difference in investment in weapon size among species without alternative tactics and with alternative tactic. After these results, what we concluded? So, none of the three traits investigated in the studies seems to affect investment in weapon size. Probably, the benefit of investing in weapon is similar between these reproductive traits: fight for access to female or territory, female guard and female not guard, occurrence of alternative tactics, and no occurrence of alternative tactics. In addition to the reproductive benefits, other features are anticipated to shape the investment in weapon size. For example, the cost of weapon production and maintenance, and the mechanical advantage in fight. In this case, some fight styles in a species could favor a great investment in weapon size than other species fight styles. This study was one of the first to do a systematic comparison among species to understand how some of these factors affect investment in weapon size. We find that three reproductive benefit studies here don't seem to do a strong enough selection pressure to shape weapon size investment among species. Thank you for your attention.